There is a dog in this story you need to know about. Her name is Maple. She is a 4-year-old basset hound with ears so long they drag through her water bowl every single morning. And she has one defining habit that her owner, a middle school teacher named Claire, has never been able to explain. Every time Claire comes home on a hard day, before Claire has even taken off her coat, before she has sat down, before a single word has been spoken, Maple is already there, already watching, already waiting at the exact right distance, not jumping, not barking, just present in a way that feels less like a dog greeting her owner and more like something ancient recognizing something it loves. Claire has spent years calling it a sixth sense. She is about to find out it is something far more extraordinary than that. Picture the moment. It has been one of those days where the weight of the world sits right behind your eyes. You are alone in a quiet room. You have not made a sound. You have not cried. You are holding yourself very still, the way people do when they are trying to stay in one piece. And then your dog is simply there. They do not bring a toy. They do not ask for food. They just push a cold nose under your hand, or they drop the slow, deliberate weight of their head onto your knee, and something inside you finally exhales. For centuries, we have called this a sixth sense. We say our dogs just know. We assume they must have heard us sigh or noticed something shift in our face. We build these gentle, mystical explanations because the alternative feels too big to hold. But the truth is far more profound than any myth we could invent. Your dog did not guess you were sad. They read you. And they read you through something science is only now beginning to fully understand. Your sorrow has a scent, and your dog has been fluent in that language their entire life. To understand what is actually happening in that quiet room, we have to start inside your own body. We tend to think of grief and emotional pain as something that lives only in the mind, a private storm behind the eyes. But science tells us that severe distress is not a quiet psychological event, it is a violent physical one. The moment your brain registers emotional overwhelm, it fires off a full-body survival alarm. What follows is a flood of invisible stress chemicals pouring into your bloodstream. These chemicals do not stay contained. They breach the surface of your skin. Every human body is covered in tiny sweat glands that are uniquely responsive to emotional pressure. And when those glands activate under stress, they release a fluid that reacts with the bacteria on your skin and produces highly specific chemical compounds that drift outward into the air around you. At the same moment, the sudden spike of stress hormones alters the very chemistry of the air you exhale from your lungs. Think about that for a moment. You are sitting in silence. You have not moved. You have not made a single sound. But your body is quietly broadcasting your pain into the room, molecule by molecule, in a language you cannot speak and cannot even hear. Maple is 4 rooms away right now, and she can already hear every word. A dog's nose is not a nose the way your nose is a nose. That comparison is almost an insult to what a dog's nose actually is. Where you have roughly 6 million scent receptors, a basset hound like Maple has closer to 300 million. But the number alone does not explain the miracle. What separates a dog's sense of smell from your own is not just quantity, it is architecture. Deep inside a dog's nasal cavity, air is divided and sorted. One stream goes to the lungs for breathing. The other stream is routed into a dedicated labyrinth built for one purpose only: to decode the chemical world with breathtaking precision. And there is something else, something that changes everything. Inside a dog's nose, hidden just above the roof of their mouth, is a second sensory organ, a secret second nose, built for a single purpose: to read the emotions of the people they love. It works differently from the main nose. It does not detect odors the way you detect the smell of coffee or rain. It detects the emotional chemical signals of other living creatures, the invisible broadcasts of fear and pain and love that travel through the air between bodies that care for one another. But here is the part that most people never hear. It is not just that dogs can smell more, it is what their brain does with what they smell. In your brain, sensory information travels through a relay point before your conscious mind processes it. There is a small pause, a fraction of a second, where the brain evaluates the data before you feel anything. A dog's brain does not work this way. The scent pathways in a dog's brain run directly into their emotional center without any delay, without any filter, without any pause for evaluation. When Maple smells the stress chemicals rising off of Claire's skin, that information does not arrive as a neutral data point. It arrives as a feeling. It lands directly in the part of the brain that processes fear and love and urgency. Maple does not analyze Claire's pain. Maple feels it, immediately, physically, as if it were her own. This is not a metaphor. This is anatomy. And the science to prove it exists. It is measured, it is documented, and what it reveals about your dog will change the way you look at them for the rest of your life. Researchers at Queen's University Belfast wanted to know the truth. Not the romantic version. Not the version we tell ourselves when our dogs curl closer on a hard night. They wanted hard numbers, so they designed a study that was almost uncomfortably precise. They took human volunteers and put them under acute psychological stress. Not the vague, everyday kind, the specific, measurable kind. They asked people to count backward from a large number, out loud, under intense time pressure, while being closely monitored. Blood pressure climbed, heart rate spiked, cortisol flooded the bloodstream. The physiological signature of genuine panic, manufactured in a laboratory, in a controlled room, on an ordinary afternoon. Then the researchers collected something invisible. They gathered samples of the breath and sweat these stressed humans had produced, and they brought those samples to dogs. Not the dog's own owners, complete strangers. People these dogs had never once met. In more than 90% of the trials, the dogs identified the scent of psychological distress correctly, over and over again, through sample after sample, from people they had never seen, whose faces they had never learned, whose voices they had never heard. They identified the invisible chemical signature of a breaking human heart, with a precision that no technology we currently own can match. Stop and sit with that for a moment. Your dog has never needed to see your face fall. They have never needed to hear you cry. The chemistry of your grief is a language so clear, so loud, so unmistakable to them that a stranger's dog could read it in a breath. Imagine what your own dog reads in you every single day. There is a moment Claire describes that she returns to often. She was sitting at her kitchen table one evening after a particularly hard week, not crying, not visibly upset, just very still and very tired in the way that goes deeper than sleep can fix. Maple walked in from the other room, crossed the kitchen floor without hesitation, and pressed the full side of her body against Claire's leg, not resting her head, not asking to be pet, just leaning, steady and warm and completely deliberate, like a wall deciding to be gentle. Claire thought Maple just wanted attention. She knows better now. Because this is where the science reframes something most of us have completely misunderstood. When your dog approaches you before you cry, before you have made a single sound, most of us assume they must have picked up on something subtle, a change in our breathing, a slight shift in posture, a tiny, barely perceptible signal. And we tell ourselves, they are so in tune with me. What we do not realize is that the chemical alarm had already been ringing for minutes before any of that. Your body begins broadcasting the stress response long before your conscious mind finishes processing the emotion. The hormones flood the blood first. The glands open first. The chemical compounds begin drifting into the air first. Your dog is not detecting a subtle social cue. They are responding to a full physiological event that your own brain has not yet caught up to. This is service dogs can warn their handlers before a seizure takes hold, before a panic attack peaks, before the body visibly responds. They are not predicting anything. They are simply reading a chemical reality that exists before we feel it ourselves. When Maple crosses the room before Claire has done anything at all, she is not being intuitive. She is being precise. She is the most accurate early warning system Claire has ever had, and she does it quietly, every time, with those long, soft ears and that warm, unhurried certainty. And then, if the grief deepens, if the walls finally come down and the tears begin, the signal your dog receives does not just continue, it intensifies in a way that is almost impossible to overstate. We think of tears as simply salt water, the body's overflow valve. But science has found something quietly astonishing inside them. Not all tears are the same. The tears that fall when your eye is irritated by dust or wind are chemically simple. The tears that fall when your heart is breaking are something else entirely. Emotional tears carry a concentration of stress hormones and specific compounds produced by the brain to manage severe pain. One of those compounds is a natural painkiller your own body manufactures when the emotional damage becomes too significant to carry without help. When those tears fall from your face, you are not just crying. You are physically shedding the biochemical residue of your pain into the air around you. To your dog, this is not a visual moment. It is not the sight of water on your face that reaches them. It is an overwhelming, unmistakable chemical plume, dense and complex and impossible to ignore. The scent of cortisol and adrenaline and the specific compounds of human grief, all arriving at once, all pointing to the same truth. The person I love is in serious pain right now. And deep inside a dog, something ancient and urgent responds to that truth in a way that has nothing to do with training, and nothing to do with personality, and nothing to do with how long they have known you. It has to do with something that was wired into them long before they ever met you. Something that goes back further than domestication, further than history. Something written into the bones of every dog that has ever lived, in the language of wolves. Long before the first dog ever curled beside the first human fire, there was a wolf. And that wolf had a problem that would change the course of both our species forever. Wolves hunt in packs, and a pack is not just a social convenience, it is a survival machine. And a survival machine only works if every member of it can read every other member with perfect, instant accuracy. Who is injured? Who is afraid? Who is carrying a wound they are trying to hide? Who is about to break? In a world without language, without hospitals, without the luxury of asking how you are, the ability to smell the emotional and physical truth of a packmate was not a gift. It was life and death. It was the difference between the pack holding together and the pack falling apart in the cold. So evolution built a nose that could do exactly that. Precise, relentless, impossibly fast. And then, somewhere between 10,000 and 40,000 years ago, something changed. The exact moment is still debated by scientists, but the outcome is not. Certain wolves began moving toward human settlements. Not all of them. Not the ones built for distance and dominance. The ones built for closeness. The ones who could tolerate proximity. The ones whose nervous systems did not flood with alarm when a strange creature with fire and noise moved nearby. These wolves were already different, and what happened next made them more different still. Because the humans noticed them too. Generation after generation, across thousands of years, the wolves who thrived near humans were the ones who could read them, who could track their moods, who could stay calm when the humans were calm, and alert when the humans were afraid. The ones who could look a human in the eye, something no other predator had ever willingly done, and communicate something that crossed every species barrier. I am not a threat. I am something else entirely. I am here. That gaze changed everything. Scientists have found that when a dog looks into a human's eyes, both the dog and the human experience a surge of the same chemical rush of love a mother feels the first time she holds her baby. The same one, flowing in both directions, across species lines, because of a look. Think about what that means. Your dog is not simply an animal that learns to live beside you. Your dog is the biological result of thousands of years of one species learning to feel what another species feels. Every generation that could not do it was left behind. Every generation that could survived and passed that ability forward. The dog you love today is the living endpoint of an unbroken line of creatures who were selected, slowly and specifically, for one thing above all others: the ability to be emotionally present with you. This is not a coincidence. This is inheritance. This is the deepest kind of loyalty there is, the kind written into the body before the dog was even born. And now we arrive at the part of the story that Claire never expected. Not when she got Maple as a puppy, not when she noticed the habit forming over months and years, not when she began calling it a sixth sense and leaving it at that. Because understanding why Maple crosses the room is only half of what matters. The other half is what Maple's body is doing once she gets there, and what it does to Claire's body in return. When a dog makes physical contact with a distressed human, the contact does not just comfort the human, it changes them, measurably, biologically. Within minutes of a dog pressing their body against someone in emotional pain, researchers have found a significant drop in the stress hormones circulating in that person's blood. Heart rate slows, blood pressure eases, breathing deepens, often without the person noticing. The invisible storm that was broadcasting itself into the room begins, slowly, to quiet. But here is what almost no one talks about. The same thing is happening inside the dog. When Maple leans against Claire, Maple's body is also changing. Her own stress hormones drop. Her own heart rate settles. Because presence, real physical presence between two creatures who are bonded, is not a one-way transfer of comfort. It is a shared regulation. The dog does not just absorb your pain, they help you carry it, and in carrying it together, both of you become less burdened than either of you were alone. Scientists call this co-regulation. But that word is far too small and far too cold for what it actually is. What it actually is what happens when Maple presses the full warm weight of her body against Claire's leg, and Claire, without thinking, puts her hand on Maple's side, and both of them breathe. The next time your dog comes to you on a hard night, try this. Do not push them away because you feel like you should hold yourself together. Let them close. Place your hand flat against their side. Feel their ribs rise and fall. And then just wait. Research suggests that within minutes, your breathing will begin to match theirs. Slower, steadier, more like something that will get through this. That is not a trick. That is not a technique. That is two species shaped by thousands of years of choosing each other, doing exactly what they were built to do. And if you have ever wondered, in a quiet moment, whether any of this goes both ways, whether your dog truly feels something when you are suffering, or whether they are simply responding to stimuli the way a machine responds to input, the answer, now written in peer-reviewed papers and replicated across continents and confirmed in the bodies of thousands of dogs, is simple. They feel it. They feel you every time. Now we come back to Maple. Not to the science, not to the study or the mechanism or the elegant biological explanation, just to Maple on a Tuesday evening in a quiet kitchen in a house that has seen better weeks. Claire is at the table again. The papers are graded. The day is done. The house is still. And Maple is already there, those absurd, beautiful ears pooled on the floor beside her chair, her chin resting on Claire's foot with the weight and the warmth of something that has decided with total certainty that this is exactly where it belongs. Claire does not reach for her phone. She does not turn on the television. She just rests her hand on Maple's side. And she breathes. And Maple breathes. And something in the air of that kitchen, the invisible chemical broadcast that had been drifting through the room all evening, begins, slowly, to settle. She will not remember all of it tomorrow. The specific facts, the 300 million receptors, the study in Belfast, the wolves by the fire. She will not carry all of that with her into the morning. But she will carry this, the particular weight of a dog who chose to come, who always comes, who never once had to be asked. The life of a dog is not long. We know this. We have always known this. And most of the time we hold that knowledge at a comfortable distance, behind the ordinary business of days and weeks and seasons. But science and honesty and love all ask us to hold it a little closer. Not with grief, with reverence. Your dog's entire world fits inside you. Every safe moment they have ever known. Every morning they recognized the sound of your alarm. Every walk in the cold air. Every afternoon of ordinary sunlight through a window they watched you leave and watched you return from. Their whole life is a portrait of you, painted from the inside. In gratitude, they do not have words for, but have never stopped expressing. You are the longest story they will ever know. And they are reading it every day, right down to the chemical signature of your hardest nights. So here is what I want you to do. Not tomorrow, not after this video ends. Right now, in the next 60 seconds, go find your dog. Not to hug them dramatically or to perform a moment for yourself. Just go to where they are. Sit down near them, on the floor if you can. Put your hand on their side. Feel their warmth. Feel them breathe. And let yourself be read by something that has been fluent in you since the moment you became their whole world. That is not a small thing. That is everything. Tell me in the comments, has your dog ever come to you before you knew you needed them? Before the tears came? Before you even understood what you were feeling? I want to read every single story, because the people who watch this channel are the kind of people who notice these things, who feel the weight of that quiet presence and understand it means something extraordinary. If that is you, you are in the right place. And if you want to understand one more thing your dog does every single day that most owners never think to question, there is a video waiting for you that will change the way you see the moment your dog wakes up in the morning. The very first thing they do when they open their eyes. You will never look at that moment the same way again.